FearScape Media Network, exploring the unknown, one podcast at a time.
Hi, friends. This is Kelly with Wishful Drinking and Binge Thinking, the podcast where I get just absolutely hammered and I dole out psychological advice. That's right, I am going to be more drunk than that girl you met in the bar bathroom after your karaoke set who said, "You have such good stage presence. Oh my god." That's right, zero preparation, multiple drinks, countless profound gems. Tune in the last Monday of every month on FearScape Media Network.
Thank you for tuning in to FearScape Paranormal Podcast. We are on a journey to understand and to discover the phenomena that seems to exist all around the globe. We invite you to join us on this journey into the unknown.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another fantastic episode of FearScape Paranormal Podcast here on the FearScape Media Network. I am your host, Stefan Lovable McGee Gearhart, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Josh, not as lovable McGee Rutledge. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. And you know, the amount of lovability that somebody has is all dependent upon the person doing the lovability exercise.
I feel like you were about to do a tongue twister and I didn't know what was happening. So when I say you're not as lovable, it does not mean that you aren't lovable. It's just that I am like a teddy bear level of lovable and you're like a stuffed manatee.
No. You're like a regular size teddy bear amount of lovable, and I'm like the giant fucking teddy bears that people rip the stuffing out of, and then
they just put in their closet because it's just too big to fucking go anywhere. But they love it. I mean, they open it up and they're like, "Oh, I need to get this fucking dress for the day." Excuse my language, but it's like, I need to get this dress for the day. Oh, my Josh Bear's back there. Oh, I love that guy.
Right.
Shut.
You know, so basically what you're saying is I spend all day in a dark closet.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Looking for spooky stuff. That's what we do here on FearScape Paranormal Podcast. But yeah, anyways, we got a fun show for you guys tonight. We're actually going to do a round table discussion with just ourselves. So I guess it's really not a round table. It's more rectangular. But it's just Josh and I. But we're going to be talking tonight about extraterrestrials. We're going to be talking about just in general things that we think about it. What do we think? We're going to discuss it. So I don't know what the hell's going to happen, but I know I want to talk about some of the stuff that's happened with disclosure and the like. So make sure you stick around for that because it's going to be some
crazy times right now. Crazy times right now. Yeah.
And I may even reference Steven Spielberg's E.T.
Can we?
That's called a palate wetter.
Is it, if it's less than 7 seconds, we can talk about it, right? You know where it goes?
E.T. Anyways, let's get moving on, man. I want to get into our first segment of the night, which is the Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary's Psychic Word of the Week.
And now, the Psychic Word of the Week.
Psychic Word of the Week, like I said, comes from the Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary from June G. Blitzer, PhD. Rust in peace. Oh my God. I'm listening to Megadeth now. Rest in peace, Honey Bear. I don't know if you were into heavy metal or not, but you know, if you are, represent.
Is that what the Transformers do? Do they rust in peace?
They do rust in peace, yeah. Because unless they're in Arizona, it don't really rust out here. It doesn't rain very often. It's kind of cool. So you drive by the junkyards and you're like, is that a car lot? Oh, it's a junkyard? Oh.
Okay. Go pick one up for $5.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Look at that short bus. Neat. Oh, $12. It still runs? Okay. But anyways, so I flipped through the pages here. I landed on page 350. And the first set of words here that grabbed my attention was levitated running, which, by the way, is underneath levitated dancing. Just wanted to point that out, but I did see running first, so we're gonna go with that. So levitated running, this comes from Tibet, and it says to run great distances without touching one's feet to the ground and without tiring, accomplished by focalizing one's entire attention on the upper part of the body and allowing the feet to take care of themselves. The focalizing of attention puts one in a semi-trance, making the skill easier. Can also be accomplished by allowing an etheric world intelligence to interpenetrate. Sorry, I was like, is that what it says? Interpenetrate one's body and use it to run because of the intelligence's ability to control gravity.
Interesting.
So I wonder if this is closely related to like how those people run across hot coals. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's like a big thing.
Like mind over matter, right? I mean, it's what you're doing.
Though, I mean, this really says you're not touching the ground. So I feel like levitated running is similar to what Jesus did in the Bible. Though I feel like he did more levitating standing.
But if you're levitating and you're running and your feet aren't touching the ground, isn't that just flying? I
don't know. Because, you know, in not Campbellsville, but Bowling Green, Kentucky, outside of there, in one of the counties, there was this, and this is an urban legend that's in many cities, but there was this urban legend of this Native American man that would run alongside your car if you were down this back road, this long stretch of highway at night and things like that. And so I used to get real freaked out because I would think that I would see this man running next to us. And while they would say you really couldn't see his feet, you know, but you could see his upper torso and he'd be running because you could see his arms moving and things like that. So then it's like, well, is he running then using your logic, or is he floating, flying?
Well, it also makes me think about Scooby-Doo. Whenever they would get frightened, you know, they would kind of stay in one space, but their legs would be,
man.
Their legs would be moving, but they wouldn't be going yet. Yep. I mean, that's basically the same thing, right?
I think so. I think so. I think we've discovered the science behind Scooby-Doo Run.
Yeah.
Zoinks. So levitated running, very, very interesting. But yeah, again, my point is, or your point and mine is as well, do you even need to move your feet? Like if you're levitating and able to move, or is your feet moving, pushing through the air currents, right? Like, you know.
You know what it makes me think of, really, and if this is another movie reference, Dark City.
I love that movie, man. I have the director's cut. Ooh,
great movie. But anyways, there's a scene where he basically levitates up the stairs, like he's keeping his feet straight, you know, and he just kind of like levitates up the stairs. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
So
I can see that.
or Magneto, you know, just
or Magneto. Yep, definitely. Can get on that as well. But yeah, so thank you, June G. Blitzer, as usual. We love you, Honey Bear. Rest in peace, or rust in peace.
Rust in peace, whichever.
Also a transformer. All right, so let's get on to our next segment, which is what? You got more to say?
Aren't we all transformers in the end?
I wish I wouldn't have stopped. John. Wish I wouldn't. I am sorry, audience. I'm sorry. Hug your blankets real tight. Things get spooky with Josh. So moving on to some spooky news. All right, so spooky news, so we can rinse our palate out after that, is I've got fun. This is some fun spooky news, okay? So, you know, not everything is crazy. Well, not like the tree exorcisms, but this set of spooky news comes from Kiro7.com in Cleveland, I believe. The headline reads, "Scary menu, new haunted house restaurant to open in Cleveland." And some of you guys know I grew up in Cleveland a little bit. My mom lived in Cleveland. My dad lived in Toledo. So I love me some Cleveland, and I am all about this. So anyways, this says here, most restaurant patrons do not enjoy a scary experience when eating their meals, but a new restaurant in Cleveland might change their mind. This is called the Haunted House Restaurant. Clever name. Clever.
Yeah, very, very original.
Original. In Cleveland Heights will combine scary movies and food when it officially opens on July 20th. So looks like this opened up last week. So of Cleveland, or excuse me, the Plain Dealer of Cleveland reported, which is their newspaper there. It says, "Don't worry, even if the servers handle knives, they will not be dressed as Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, or Michael Myers. So relax." I'm kind of mad about that. I thought that would have been really cool.
But that's not a haunted house. That would be a horror house thing.
No, it's haunted house.
No, it's not.
If you've ever been to haunts at Halloween, they're dressed up as like the Leatherface and It and all that crap. So
nobody goes to a haunted house to try to get an EVP of Jason Voorhees.
Well, not that kind of haunted house. I mean, there's two types. There's the entertainment kind, and then there's the real kind.
But which one is this one? This
is the entertainment kind, because like I said, if you go like around Halloween when they got all those haunted houses everywhere, it's all like aliens and predators and Jason and Freddy and other type of monsters and stuff like that. So yes, it would be called a horror house, I guess, but that gets a little too close to those weird churches that do those hell houses, and just,
anyways, on with the story.
So the reporter said the only thing scary is how good the food is. And there is a sign on the wall next to scary movie posters that will greet the patrons with that phrase there. Artwork in the restaurant will include Voorhees along with Pennywise the Clown and Frankenstein Monster and all sorts of stuff. From the moment people come through the doors, we're paying homage to the classic horror and thriller movies, restaurant partner Andre Scott said. Co-founders Scott and Ryan Goulat have known each other since high school. Yippee. They wanted to... Oh, hey, this gets close. Listen to this. Goulat wanted to have a restaurant with a different concept after he got some inspiration after seeing Super Chefs in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, look at that.
Wow. I love Super Chefs, man. That Hulk freaking chicken and waffles is banging, dude. It's a green waffle. It's awesome, dude. So it's all superhero themed. It's really, really cool. He says, we don't have superpowers, so we could use anything. It could have been video games or anime characters or whatever. But he said he loves horror movies and thought it'd be really cool if they based the restaurant off of horror movies and paranormal stuff. Scary stuff will not be limited to the main floor. Here are some of the menu items. Nightmare on Elm Street corn. Jerk Silence of the Lamb Pops. The Lurch Burger. Jaws, which is pizza with seafood cream sauce and other seafood items. The Grinch, which is a green Hawaiian punch adult drink. And there's the full menu there that you can check out.
So
I want to go.
Why did they go with Nightmare on Elm Street corn and not Children of the Corn?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe nobody wants to eat children, I guess. And maybe it's because it looks like Freddy, dude, because it's street corn. So, if you've ever had street corn, which I love, it's got paprika and all kinds of stuff. So it kind of gives it that brown, orange.
Kind of burnt looking.
Yeah. And so this has garlic aioli, cotija cheese, smoked bourbon, paprika, cilantro, and candied bacon. I'm in, man. I'm in. So, but yeah, fun. I love concept restaurants like that, especially pop culture stuff. I feel like we used to have pop culture in every restaurant, like TGI Fridays and Applebee's all just had pop culture everywhere.
Don't you have a place like by your house that's like
superhero
Marvel or something?
Yeah, it's I haven't been yet, but I want to go. It's called like Superhero X or something, but yeah, it's a superhero themed restaurant that looks really, really cool, and I'm thanking you for reminding me because I keep forgetting.
There you go.
So yeah, we'll definitely have to hit that up next time you're out here because I definitely want to check that out.
I am the string on your finger, my friend.
Ooh, let me pull you for a while. All right, so let's get on to our last segment here, which is the UAP sighting of the week. All right, Josh, you've been telling me all week you've had one rearing and ready to go. So I've just set the bar high. It's on you.
Yeah, I mean, this one is. I mean, I came across this I'm doing a lot of data mining.
I
from
mean,
Newfork.
aren't we all data?
Yeah, aren't we all data? We are. We are. Not data from Star Trek.
No.
No, but yes, we're all particles. Anyways, so this actually happened June 30th, 1988. The person reported it in 2007 officially from on Newfork, but it goes a little something like this. I was moving from Houston, Texas to Metro Detroit, Michigan. I was traveling alone in a huge 26-foot Ryder rental truck while towing my 1985 Cavalier on a tow dolly behind. I was heading north out of Elizabethtown, Kentucky, but was still well south of Louisville, Kentucky on I-65. I saw a state park sign coming up, so I decided to pull over to that exit and just sleep on the shoulder on the side of the road near the highway so I could get an early start without getting lost in the morning. Plus, I was not very acclimated with the procedures needed to back this monster mobile up. Anyway, I merged into the exit lane and turned right onto this road, name forgotten. I proceeded probably a mile or more down the road, so I was far enough away not to hear noise from the occasional semi going up the hills on the interstate. I pulled off from the right shoulder, went over a hill, stopped near the bottom of the grade. I engaged the emergency brake, cut the motor, and I was smoking a cigarette and just getting ready to lay down on the bench seat and try to get a couple of hours sleep before continuing. Suddenly, I noticed that the interior of the cab was gradually getting lighter. Mind you, I am out in the middle of nowhere, parked on the exterior boundaries of a state park. Of course, I figured it was a car or vehicle of some kind. Damn if it wasn't a vehicle of some kind. The interior of the truck cab continued to get brighter, seemingly from behind, but I could not see a vehicle on the road behind me. The lights got so bright it was kind of freaking me out a little bit. I looked out the passenger window and could see some kind of multicolored lights on what appeared to be some type of flying saucer. I could see the whole thing, but it was slowly moving over a hill south of me with an approach that seemed to be coming towards me. I could not take the suspense. This was the moment when I realized whatever this was, it was a lot more powerful than I was. I got out of the truck and stood between the truck trailer and watched this thing approach me. I made such an effort to hear something as it came closer, but I heard not a sound, not a single sound. No wildlife, no bugs, no flying saucer. But I could see it. It was not shining a light on me. It was as if it was illuminating the darkness. It continued to move slowly, not varying its speed. The object appeared to be huge. My perception was that it was roughly 200 feet across. I walked to the back of the trailer, giving up my false refuge because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The object continued north, went over the next hill, seemingly flew just over the treetops. When the lights faded, I got back in the truck and locked the doors. I played the radio for about 5 minutes to help myself calm down. I decided I really was exhausted, even though I had just witnessed an amazing thing. I turned off the radio, double-checked the door locks, and fell asleep. The next morning, about 4:30 a.m., I woke up and thought about what I saw. I actually tried to rationalize that I did not see what I thought I did. I went to start the truck, and the battery was dead. Last night, I only ran the radio for about 5 minutes before I turned it off. As luck would have it, I parked on a slight incline, so I popped the clutch, and it started right up. Just a coincidence, I thought. I found the entrance to the park further down the road on the right and made a wide U-turn to get back on I-65 North. Hours later, I had picked up a station from Lima, Ohio, that said there had been multiple UFO sightings the night before. They even gave out a phone number to call if you had seen it. It was probably just their number they were giving out, not an official number. But it was just exciting that somebody had seen something last evening and they were describing similar sightings. I know these areas are 250 miles apart, but it seemed to give my version credibility again. I know it was a UFO because I could not identify it, nor have I seen anything like it since. I told the story a lot at first, But based on the looks people give you, I very rarely tell it anymore.
Official number. But it was just exciting that somebody had seen something last evening. And they were...
Jeez. When did this happen again?
1988, June 30th, 1988. So based on where he is describing, like coming out of E-Town, sees a sign for a state park, just, well south of Louisville, I'm thinking Bernheim.
Oh yeah, it would have to be if it's between Louisville and E-Town. It's got to be
just off of I-65. It's got to be Bernheim.
Man, and then hitting stuff in Lima. Lima's not very far from Toledo, where I grew up, where I would have been at that time. It's interesting because I'm trying to... Did it say what date or just the year?
So it was June 30th, 1988.
June 30th, because...
But he does say earlier before the sighting actually begins that the date is approximate.
Right. Well, because remember, I've told my story about when I was a kid, 4th of July... I saw something, and that very well could have been 1988 because I would have been 9. I would have been young enough. That would have been really weird if it was like that same week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm totally stretching here, but I mean, who knows? Who knows? Like, yeah, man, that was crazy.
So, yeah. That's one of those. It's like I go back and I read all these sighting reports. From probably before like the 2000s, and they're more detailed. Like, I don't know if like the UFO craft were just more interested in us then, or I don't know what the difference was, but like today's sighting is, 9 times out of 10, I see lights moving across the sky, right? This is an actual craft, and there are a lot of sightings that happened back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I mean,
it could also be the generations too. I mean, the younger generations, and that includes us, are less readers and more watchers, and so they don't know how to describe things, because you're not a heavy reader, and so reading teaches you description, because, right? Everything has to be described, and so you have a better eye on things, whereas now everything is just visual, and so they're like, it was orange, it was triangle, and it was in the sky, and I synced it. So that may have something to do with it. We also now texting and emails and things like that is taught shorthand. I mean, it's quick, it's faster, it's short attention span, so that may be part of it. But yeah, I completely understand. There was. I read a lot of the old sightings too, and they're far more detailed. I don't know. It's crazy. But I hate that, he's like, I've told this so many times over the years, and now I've had to put a stop to it because I'm tired of the way people look at me. Just so. But
I feel like if this individual's still around and kicking, their story probably wouldn't fall on so many odd looks today with everything that's going on. So
agreed. And again, on a positive note, we've said that the younger generations, I really, not any offense to any baby boomers, but the Gen X and millennials and things like that, they're far more open to this stuff. I guess they didn't live in the really big disinformation age from the 40s, through the 90s, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. But yeah, craziness, man. Good report. You set the bar and matched it, my friend. Matched it. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and, get into our discussion on extraterrestrials. So stick around. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, Stefan here. This episode is sponsored by the great folks over at Box Mountain. Box Mountain is a subscription box service that has my favorite sub box yet, the Cryptid Crate. You see, Josh got one of these for his birthday, and I was super jealous because it was packed full of merchandise pertaining to cryptids. The box he received first was all about the Flatwoods Monster, which of course is one of our favorites, and it had a t-shirt, a book, a patch, mug, and some awesome stickers. So I checked out the price to get one for myself, and let me tell you, it is well worth the value. These make excellent gifts for yourself or even friends that are cryptid lovers as well. Now, if you use the coupon code FearScape, you will get 25% off the first month for any new subscription or 10% off individual purchases. So go ahead and head on over to fearscapepodcast.com/cryptidcrate now and get yourself one today.
Hello, blanket huggers. Stefan here. On March 28th, 2021, Josh and I received a message through our website's Submit a Sighting form from someone claiming to be Terry R. Rist, the man referenced in Hell Here and the man interviewed by Alan Greenfield in Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts. From there, we received a number of cryptic emails filled with information on places to search for answers to the larger mystery of the quest and journey Josh and I have been on. So we decided, fake or not, we should take it seriously, as much of the information given panned out and definitely opened our eyes to many new things. So we enlisted the help of Astral Stew co-host Santosh and FearScape guest and Greenfield's publisher Olaf Phillips. Together, the four of us have been digging deeper and deeper into not only the true identity of our source of paranormal gold, whether he is the Terry Rist or not, but also into the mystery of the information given us. It has led us to some amazing doors into such things as the secret space program, Hollow Earth, Darrow and Tarot, caves, underground bases, government cover-ups and conspiracies, and so much more. So if you would like to learn more about these emails, Terry's advice on where to look for more high strangeness, and our conversations and discoveries thus far, please become a monthly subscriber to our Patreon called Wristwatch at fearscapepodcast.com/support or patreon.com/fearscapepod. There you can get access to the emails themselves, the WhatsApp conversation about it all with Josh, myself, Santosh, and Olaf, and even any new clues that we have found. You can even join the investigation and add anything you have found to help us dive deeper into the mystery. You will also get access to other FearScape-related things, such as extended interviews with guests not aired on the show, early access to Estes sessions with us and friends, and so much more. Wristwatch is a Patreon exclusive for our most dedicated fans. Join today and discover why the truth is now.
All right, Josh, I'm ready to talk ETs, man. So you threw this at me, and so I'm going to let you start the discussion, my friend, and just drop your knowledge and let's go from there.
Okay. So one of the things in the current state where we are with Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and all the things that are going on with the official, UAP report from the Pentagon and all this kind of stuff, UAPs are a hot topic in mainstream media right now. There's not I saw Showtime is coming out with a series.
Oh yeah, everybody and their mother's got a damn
jumping on the bandwagon. So yeah, so one of the things I've been watching a lot of documentaries lately about it. I just watched one on Hulu the other night that was done by TMZ. Talked to a couple different people. Christopher Mellon was in it, Lou was in it. But one of the things that I've been realizing and recognizing is that these people who are who have been touted as quote unquote credible witnesses over the last 3 or 4 years, since all this kind of stuff started really ramping up again. When you listen to their interviews of more recent, they say words like, I don't think it's outside of our realm of possibilities that these could be extraterrestrial craft. But nobody's really talking about that. And I just think it's really profound that Christopher Mellon, right? So the TMZ documentary talked about how the Mellons, the actual family, the Mellons, they've been around for 100
Thornton
years.
Mellon from Back to School, Rodney Dangerfield played him.
No, these guys are in the baking industry and all kinds of stuff. But anyways, that's a big name.
It's like the Carnegie Mellons, right?
Right.
Carnegie and Mellons, they were really big. Yeah.
Exactly. So Christopher Mellon doesn't need anything, right? Mm-hmm. He's set. He's good to go. He'll never have a want ever again in his life. But he's going on record saying we should be looking at extraterrestrials as a possibility.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Mellon more than any of them. And Mellon was the one that I really thought would backpedal the most. And it's actually, and maybe again, this may be why they separated themselves from To the Stars as well. I mean, we really don't know at the end of the day why. So,
but I mean, I just think it's really interesting that, again, these credible witnesses that have been really propped up in the industry of late are really willing to think about it and discuss the extraterrestrial piece. So I thought it would be maybe a point for us to talk about what are some of the theories that we've heard around, you know, this next bit of discussion is going to assume that the majority of unidentified craft, so of the 143 that are mentioned in the Pentagon report that can't be identified, that all of those are under some level of intelligent control. What is the potential intelligences behind that?
right. And so since we're talking ETs, not UTs, I want to say, I mean, this is the classic explanation that it is visitors from outside of Earth, not dimensionally, but from outer space, another planet in another solar system. It used to be Venus or Mars, but we've moved further than that now, with those theories. So, well,
and one of the things that a lot of people that are very objective in their thought process like to throw out is the physics behind our understanding of physics means that a craft can't travel faster than light. There'd be no way for them, why would an extraterrestrial race board a craft and travel 150 light years to our planet?
I know. I've always hated this, and I'm gonna say this is because so first of all, the first thought is that they're more advanced than us, right? That is the very first thing that we say, because they would have to be. But then in the same breath we go, but they're following the same physics that we use. Like, if they're more advanced, that then can imply they figured out some shit that we ain't figured out yet.
Well,
so
and
why
also,
is that in the same breath?
Well, but also I think maybe it's something worth, just because there may be some advanced physics that we don't yet understand doesn't mean that the physics we do understand go away. Right. We just don't have the level of understanding that these beings might have of those physics. So they can operate in our space with our understanding of physics, but they can also operate in our space with a higher level of like the quick acceleration and 90 degree.
Sure. I mean, just look, just years ago, antimatter was a joke. There was, now we're looking at it, right? We now, Einstein and them said, hey, matter is energy, and that's still debated, but we've got a lot more proof on that everything is made up of energy. And these are things that have changed just within the last, couple decades. So
I got a dad joke for you. Don't ever trust atoms because they make up everything.
Don't ever trust nuclear atoms because they always split. Boo.
Anyways, so one of the other things that I and this is going to get very much on the theorized side of the house, but is that the idea that some of these craft may be traveling in space-time as opposed to just space, right? So space-time is the overlay of time and space, and so if that is true, then they're effectively time travelers, because they have bended time to be able to leave in their space-time and arrive 1,300 light years away in our space-time simultaneously. In order for that to happen, they are time travelers.
Right. And we know time is not as static as we once thought. I mean, we now know that near black holes and things like that, time can shift and change and things like that. And again, this is also assuming that they haven't developed some sort of wormhole system. Well,
Right.
They may not even be from the Milky Way galaxy. I mean, we always just assume they're from another part of the Milky Way. They could have opened up a wormhole from another galaxy, into the Milky Way. I mean, we don't know. Or you take a look at things like, I can never remember the name of it. It's that Hawaiian name, that giant asteroid,
Yeah, I know you're talking about it. It's like
Ouroboros or whatever it is.
it very, very cigar shaped.
Yes, and we also assume that they've left their planet. Like we get up and go to the grocery store, right? That's kind of how theorists, skeptics, think about it. They could have been in space their whole life.
Right.
Like, we don't know. They could have moved completely away from their planet and have this giant mothership where some of these people have never seen their home planet ever. And, and there's a lot of people who think that asteroid was indeed a cloaked kind of mothership. And because we had a lot of UFO flaps during that time, who knows? So how do we, that's why skeptics, sometimes I have issues with, it's like, how can you be so certain on your skeptical side, but I'm not allowed to be certain on the non-skeptical side when there's no proof on either side.
Well, and again, I think, we've said this a couple of times in past interviews. Kathleen Martin was the most recent one where we used it, where, the magic of yesterday is the science of today, and the magic of today is the science of tomorrow. But that's true. I mean, the point is that what we don't understand today about how these UFO and UAP interact, we may understand sometime in the future. The other thing that really kind of, as far as a reason why it's not an extraterrestrial, a lot of skeptics will say because of the physics involved, it's more likely that either A, they're already here, they've been here the whole time, or B, they're interdimensional. Because then they don't have to travel through space and time. They just have to shift across a dimensional plane. But again, this is just, in my opinion, that's just based on understanding of physics. These things are more likely. But again, it's our understanding of physics. 150, 200 years ago, we knew nothing what we know now. What would we have decided then? What was the reason that they were coming then?
Sure. Well, imagine this. I just thought up in my head. So what if they can dimensionally shift, right? So they're in our dimension right now. They're 100 million light years away. They are able to shift to a dimension where Earth is right next to them, right? And they are able to just go to as far as the moon. And then they shift again, but through Earth's perspective, back to our dimension, and so then they're at Earth.
Well, that's one of the theories that
So still they're from outer space, but they used a dimensional shift as a travel agent.
So one of the things that I've thought about before, and I think we've talked about it on one of our Unhinged episodes, but is the idea that which is basically what you just said, when they travel, they don't move the galaxy, space, the universe, whatever, it moves around them.
Right. Just like, what is it, Dune or whichever one of them, where it's like space gets folded.
Yeah.
And so essentially they don't go around, it's just boom, boom, it's right there. It's like going through paper.
Well, and I think that's basically the premise behind wormholes is that it's a fold in space.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, so the idea that they could be extraterrestrials, I do like the idea that they could, be extraterrestrials that have in fact set up some sort of a base here on the planet.
Sure.
And are just coming to and fro.
Again, look at all of the old Sumerian and Mayan stuff. I mean, right there, we've got, things that kind of show that.
That's not necessarily ultra-terrestrial. Ultra-terrestrial, of course, being that there's another species that originated on Earth that's a lot older than humans. This is actually extraterrestrial that just set up a base here sometime in the past. And it's just kind of, we see them taxiing back and forth. So
yeah, exactly.
Or all. Well, yeah, that's the other thing too, is that, we've talked about this before too. I mean, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be extraterrestrials that are brand new, never had been here before. We're a pit stop along the way to, the Andromeda galaxy.
Right.
We're one of the only planets along the way that has water, so they stop here to get water. Right. They've got a base set up, and there's ultra-terrestrials, and there's interdimensional beings, and there's vampires. So.
Right, and it's like, other skeptics will also say that everyone's ideas of extraterrestrials or aliens are based off of popular culture, starting with H.G. Wells in terms of the Greys, and moving from there, and then we start to see those things. And I'm just like, okay, well, what if we brought this up a million times about the natives seeing Columbus's ships for the first time. They couldn't understand what they were seeing, and so they either saw nothing or their eyes saw it as something that made sense to them. And that's okay. What if that's what happens here too? It's like I can't understand what I saw, but I know I saw fire in the sky, and I had a similar experience in terms of being in an operating room and things like that. And so that's my brain's going to allow itself to see it that way, right? I mean, that still doesn't say there weren't extraterrestrials. It just says its brain is pulling upon images it knows to try to make understanding of what it saw.
We've talked about this before too. If media, movies, TV, and so on and so forth, has been used over the years to, as a slow trickle disclosure agent, to broaden our minds, to think about these kind of things, to be able to accept, shapes and sizes of this type, then maybe the influence of the creators of such a show or a TV or whatever, a drawing, was done by extraterrestrial.
Right.
It's the whole argument of what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? So what came first, the thought of the gray or the actual gray? So.
Right. I mean, for example, H.G. Wells, what if he came up with that story because he had a dream that he was in this cave, or whatever he could explain it as, and this gray creature, because remember, he didn't call them aliens at first. He said it was just like some sort of proto-human or something, and that's what he thought he saw, right? And then he maybe had another experience and realized, holy shit, this thing came from outer space, and that's why he changed it up. I mean, we don't know. Don't know. That doesn't I can't discount things just because of that.
Well, one of the things that I really I sat down and I thought about today is all of the paranormal stuff that we talk about on the show has always been lumped together. UFOs is definitely one of those things. Mm-hmm. If we now have governments across the world, including the United States, saying, yes, UFOs are real, does that give additional credence to at least the possibility that everything else in the paranormal space is also real?
I don't know. And the reason I say I don't know is because they left so much ambiguous. Mm-hmm. If they had said, hey, we think that there's a possibility of extraterrestrials, I would say yes, but they never did. They just said other. But yeah, if you want to play the other side of things, other can mean everything. It could mean it's a catch-all, so it literally can mean anything. So yes, from our POV, absolutely. If we do, like most of the community really is coming together on this, and that it is all related, starting to see way more about that, which just finished the Missing Hunters 411. Yeah. The second one of the Missing 411, which I really liked even better. They talk about that on there. Because, the first Missing 411 really kind of stayed away as much from the paranormal as they could while still hinting at it. Missing Hunters 411 finally just kind of goes, here's what people think, and that it's all related. And so I think it does kind of give credence to everything else. Why not? Especially if time is not a factor. We can look at some of these monsters. Why couldn't we're finding species all the time that supposedly died out, right, 100,000 years ago? All of a sudden we're finding them again, like that the dinosaur fish, that now they're finding a huge mass of them, and they were thought extinct. It's like why not? Who knows? I mean, you've got an underwater dinosaur that stays deep. I mean, that's what these fish were. They hide in these caves. That's why people didn't see them. They literally hide in these caves and only come out to feed, and it's real brief, and then they go back into their caves like that. I was listening to NPR about it, and so why could not Nessie or something like that comes up just to maybe get air or to just do this? I mean, we don't know. We have to stop assuming that our science is finite.
Well, one of the talking about Nessie now, it's kind of rarely seen, or has like, look at every other animal. Every other animal goes through a migratory period for mating purposes. So maybe Nessie does live in an underwater lake or something that has its own air, and it only comes out in the loch when it's mating season.
Well, I mean, so many of those lochs, not all of them were just made because of the glaciers melting. Some of them are spring fed, coming from underneath. We don't know. They have not mapped the entire, because it's so damn deep. Right. Same thing with the the Marianas Trench and all that stuff. It's like there's so much unmapped stuff. We have no idea what kind of systems exist.
I read somewhere that we have mapped 1% of the ocean floor.
Yeah, 1%. I saw that as well. 1%.
So, I mean,
what are we gonna find? And are there underground, like, cavern tunnel systems? Is there hollow earth down there? I mean, it's like, we don't know. I think what's the furthest we've ever drilled down is like, 8 miles or something like that?
Yeah.
And that's nothing.
That's nothing in the size of the earth. Doesn't even
break the top crust, like.
So, I mean, it's it's almost a little disheartening, the fact that we spend so much money trying to explore outside of the earth when we haven't really even explored what's on the earth or in the earth or under the earth or whatever the type description you want to use. But there's the whole idea of UAP is unidentified aerial phenomena, but there's also another for UAP, which is unidentified aquatic phenomenon. And there's a whole other sighting list that's like, and a lot of people think that that's why the Navy got the initial task force assignment, is because a lot of these craft that the Navy have seen go into the water and then come out of the water. And so,
have been seen on the water, and things like that. So 100%. And, if we talk about bases, where are these bases if they've been here this whole time? Well, guess where we've only mapped 1% of. So time to get Sequest out, man.
Well, I mean, that's one of my favorite movies is The Abyss for that same purpose.
I love The Abyss. I love The Abyss. What a great movie.
And if anything that The Abyss tells you or shows you is that they were scared, but there was no reason to be scared.
Yeah.
And
that you can breathe an amniotic fluid.
Well, yes, you did that as a baby. That's what they told you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if that's true, then why do I take a drink of water and choke on it?
Because it's not amniotic fluid.
Okay.
It's different.
So if I drink maple syrup, I'd be okay.
Nope, that's maple syrup. It's not amniotic fluid. Now, if you put some amniotic fluid in your maple syrup, maybe.
That'd be weird.
Yeah. Amniotic fluid's already weird, man. Like.
Anyways, we're getting off topic, but
so I wanted to bring up move away from the disclosure aspect of it all and talk about contactees and things like that over the past 100 years. There are I think there's something like, they say there's something like 7 common races out there that many people have say they've seen. We've got the reptiles, of course. The Silurians are I know that's Doctor Who, but you've got the blondes, which a lot of people say that's where the Viking religion comes from. You've got your grays and your hairy beasts and some other things. I don't know what they all are.
Yeah, you got did you say the Centurions?
No.
So there's the Centurions or whatever is the blue faced kind of, they're always depicted as having like a a glow or an aura around them. They're supposed to be like very high evolved beings that are here to kind of help guide us and direct us.
They're the Watchers from Marvel.
Yeah, and then so I've actually got a little map here. So you got the Alpha Centauri aliens, which very much look humanoid, except they have bigger eyes and a bigger head. Then you have the Andromedano. They also look very humanoid, but they have bald heads. Then you have the Octoriano. That kind of looks like the alien from what's that movie with Charlie Sheen where they're trying to global warm the planet?
It's not Contact.
Arrival.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you got the Lyrianos, which look very humanoid. The Sirianos, which is actually 3 different races. The Sirianos, and that includes, they have actually ones that look like the blondes. The Palladians, very, very humanoid looking. What's really interesting about all these is that most of them look just like people. I mean, there's a handful that are, if you saw them on the street, you're like, that's not right. But most of them just look like everyday people that you might see on the street.
Right.
So,
and then you got the Flatwoods monster.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the other thing is and that's where it gets more into the what I was talking about before is how much of the stuff is extraterrestrial versus how much of the stuff is actually here and has always been here. Kind of like when we talked about with Ward Heine, the things that our ancestors, they would take offerings into the woods for the Fae folk. And we just, today, if somebody says that you're doing that, they would, lock you up or something. You'd lose your job if you posted about it on social media. So it's just how much of that stuff, so people sometimes will make the argument that the Fae folk were probably extraterrestrial.
Sure.
But they don't have to be. They could actually be Fae folk that have always lived on the earth or in the earth, and we just don't ever interact with them because we're savage or whatever.
Well, and then there's that whole my brain is dead. I heard about it on NPR, of course, as well, about this like very isolated culture or this tribe that was like 100 years more advanced than everything when they went back and looked, and they worshiped the dog star and things like that, and said that their gods came down from Orion or whatever and taught them how to do all of this stuff. I wish I could remember what that was.
Are these the people that lived in Kentucky and Virginia?
No. This was like an South American or African culture or something.
Well, because there's also
the Dogons. That's what it is. It's the Dogon people. That's a serious mystery.
Yeah.
These are real people. It was in like West Africa in the region of Mali, kind of near Niger and things like that in the Congo. And they found the Dogons, which, comes off of the dog star and things like that they had all this stuff that they should not have had at the time that they had it. And the art, it shows star systems that they should not have been able to see with the naked eye. That's 100% accurate. All kinds of crazy stuff, dude. Like, if you want to dig deep, listeners, take a look at the Dogon culture and you will be blown away at the stuff that they it's insane.
And I can't think of what this is called. I know that I called it out to you and Santosh several months ago, but there's this group of people that there's a
is it the Kentucky Green, or the kids or something that fell in the? Am I thinking of something different?
No, that's something else. So this was like in the early settlement days. There were a group of they called them European settlers, but they noted them as having olive skin and pointy facial features, which sounds a lot like the Men in Black and all that kind of stuff. But they were notated as like an early settlement that they didn't know were there in an area of the country that had not yet been explored. and they had been there and had advanced technology and had lived there for 100+ years. There were like stories amongst the Native American tribes in the area of their dealings with these people going back centuries. But yet there were a group of settlers from the European area with these kind of facial features that we read about, in Keel's books and others, that had been in the United States or North America for a period of time. I mean, I want to say it was like around Virginia or Kentucky or West Virginia, somewhere in the Appalachia area that all this happened. But again, I can't think of the name of the people or anything. Like I said, I messaged it to you and Santosh months ago, but I can't find it now when I'm talking about it. But yeah, I mean, and there's not a lot known about it, because once the actual European settlers came in, they pretty much just kind of disappeared. We integrated back into the
makes
whatever.
you wonder if they are part of the reason why we've got that rare blood disorder that makes the skin blue that happened in Kentucky, the Fugate family.
Huh.
Maybe that had something to do with it. Because that's what I always think of as the blue people of Kentucky. But I know that's not what you're referencing.
No, this was something else. And like I said, I remember reading about it and immediately thinking MIB because of the way that the people were described.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, the point in all of this is that there's all these things that, all these stories and accounts, going back hundreds of years for all these findings. Like we've said it before, this is not new to 2020 or 2021 or even 2017. This has been going on for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I in whether you like him or not, Jeremy Corbell has brought a lot of attention to the UFO, UAP, ET topic over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. And in the TMZ documentary that I was watching the other day, he was talking about a warehouse that was established to house extraterrestrial craft and extraterrestrial individuals. So that was, they asked some kind of question like, are you saying that that there are ETs that the government, the United States have ETs? And it's like, oh yeah, I know it. I know they have it. And then they cut away to asking Lou Elizondo about it. And Lou says, yes, there are warehouses, but I can't talk about it any more than that. And then later, you got Corbell and George Knapp are sitting on a couch talking to the guy. And Corbell says, look, we're sitting on a mountain of information that will blow this wide open, but we're trying to figure out how to give it out to people that doesn't breach security clearance. So yeah, if you haven't watched that TMZ one, it's on Hulu. It's really good. It's only like 45 minutes long, but
I'm gonna check it out tomorrow.
But it's really good. But I mean,
it's like the one time I'm excited to watch TMZ, like, because I'm like, oh, they're gonna do some shit you ain't supposed to.
Yeah. I mean, what we need is the Maury Povich version of the UAP disclosure report.
That's funny.
We gave you a lie detector test, and it said that you are the father of this extraterrestrial that you have refused to pay child support for. So,
is it the closest thing I can find is this thing called Melungeons? Is it the Melungeons?
That sounds like familiar? That sounds like it. How do you spell that?
Melungeon. Melungeons. Says the Melungeons were associated. Okay, because this says is a term for numerous groups of people in the southeastern United States who descend from European and sub-Saharan African settlers.
Yep, but if you do some digging into where it came from, that's where. So there's an article here from NPR, so you'll read it. But
love NPR.
But it's so the mystery. There's one on here, Family Tree of the Lost Tribe of Appalachia, that says that So they have, doing DNA. They found some DNA and did some DNA tests and found that they did actually have a lot of European and South African and stuff like that heritage. But the fact that they were living, as this tribe of people in the continent before anybody else had really gotten to that part of the continent. So
yeah, what's funny, well, it's not funny, but one of the reasons this went away was because people started using the term to essentially just mean any multiracial families and stuff, so it kind of got mixed in with that, which is kind of what happened. But there is a Melungeon DNA project that is happening still. What was I going to say here? Oh, there, of course, are some people that believe they were also the lost tribe of Israel.
Yeah.
So there's that. Interesting. Yeah, I definitely would like to dig into that. Oh, here we go. Here's some legends and stuff. Yeah, we should cover this. I think this is a fun cover. But yeah, I mean, again, well, there you go. There's another thing we can talk about. You want to talk about Lost Tribe of Israel, which really gets us even into Mormonism and things like that. It's like, what about the angels? I mean, are angels aliens, right? It's like, were they extraterrestrials that came down to kind of share knowledge, and we kind of put our own idea of what they really looked like? The right flash of light.
Well, I mean, if you look at the way that we have typically, as a people, approached things that are different from us, we either fear them or we praise them.
Right.
So, if you're a woman in the 1600s and you know how to do math, you're a witch. But if you're a man in the 800s and you know how to talk to fish, then you must be an angel or God or whatever the case may be. So it's just
or if you get messages from God, but you're not a Christian, you're multiple personality disorders or schizophrenic or whatever. But if you get it from God and you're a Christian, you're a prophet.
You're a prophet. Yep.
So yeah, I totally know what you mean by that.
But so you think about, though, all the different contextual things that we apply, and that's why I think it's important to really sit down and don't just read a story at face value, but read a story, look at the purpose of doing this has a name, and I can't think of what it's called. But look at the time it was written, or the time that it was said to have been originally told. What was the social culture like at that time? What was going on in the world? Are there any things that were happening that could have come over or translated over or applied to the story that today doesn't really make any sense, but at the time, because of what was going on socially, it would have meant something different, or it would have been read or interpreted a different way.
Well, and think about it, going back to the Melungeons, it's think about Keel talking about all the Men in Black stuff happening in West Virginia and Kentucky, which is where these folks were. So to go back to your theory about them being olive-skinned and sharp-eyed and things like that, it's here's a perfect example. I mean, they were already there, right? It's they could have already, and they were the Men in Black, or bred to be. I mean, we have no idea. There's so much. It's there's so many answers that I want. But much like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, sometimes I don't know the question to ask.
Yeah, well, and that's crap. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, this afternoon, I was thinking, because I've been having a little bit of conversation back and forth with the individual claiming to be Terry Wrist, and so I was thinking about it today, and I was like, what's the probability that he really is somebody who could pass along this level of information about what's going on in the world? And then I just asked myself the question, but what if? I mean, there are whistleblowers every day in every aspect of life. Why can't there be a whistleblower for an underground, UAP experiment or Darrow thing?
I feel like there has been, though. That's the thing. There has been whistleblowers, but the problem is the subject is so taboo that they are just seen as crazy. I mean, Dr. Stephen Greer had a whole summit filled with whistleblowers from the government, and it did nothing. You know what I mean? It's like these whistleblowers have been out there, and they have said they're at every goddamn UFO convention that's out there, and have been, from the Stanton Friedman. I mean, all these different folks, they're there, you know, but they're not being believed, and
they're not being listened to.
Right. Because the disinformation campaign that the government around the world really has put out there. And much like the UAP sighting we had tonight, the guy even said I had to stop because I was tired of people looking at me like I was crazy. Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, I have, like I told you, I've pretty much resolved to say that whether or not this person who, you know, is talking to us, this person claiming to be a terrorist or is terrorist, whether or not they are who they say they are, they're still passing along very credible information, right? And it behooves us to listen to it,
right? I'm gonna share a little bit with you right now, a little palate wetter again, to get you a little interested in joining Wristwatch on our Patreon. But recently, he gave us a clue as to what the Greys aliens are, which was very interesting, and kind of sounds pretty legit if you're following along the same train as us. Gave us some really interesting clues about not only gray aliens but underground bases, kind of falling along the lines of Philip what's his name from the Dulce from the Dulce documentary that's out there. It talks about the guy that went underground there and had to fight a bunch of gray aliens. You know, the man claiming to be Terry Wrist, I'm just gonna call him T-Dub. T-Dub gave us some information on that, and it's very interesting, and he seems to kind of have some sort of insider information if this is legit. So again, not to just wet your palate, but if you want to know more, because we don't, you know, some of this stuff is pretty Phil Schneider. And so it's like, you know, make sure to get onto our Patreon, and you know, if you just want the Wristwatch stuff, join that, you know, but some really cool stuff. But,
Phil Schneider.
Yeah, Phil Schneider. That's his name. Yeah, Phil Schneider. And he talks about that and talks about potential origin of the gray aliens, which he just calls the Greys, not aliens, you know, and it kind of refers to them possibly more UT than ET, but still very, very interesting. And just look at all of the stuff. I mean, I know it almost sounds like we're ranting on a soapbox, but I mean, you know, like back in the day when Brad and I covered night hags, I mean, we covered night hags in like 50 different country cultures and how similar they all were. Well, it's like, what if those are ETs? You know, it's like, what if those are things and they don't know how to put it, so they kind of base it off of their mythology, or they are legitimately some sort of shadow people. Sure. I mean, and what if shadow people? I mean, it's like, again, this brings the whole conversation back around to, is it all related? You know, I mean, we just talked about 7 different races of aliens of the Galactic Federation, you know, and one of them's like a hairy one. Is that Sasquatch? Right? Yeah. It's like, are they? I mean, you know, there was in Missing 411. My God, there's a moment where they're in the 70s, they recorded what they are pretty sure was Sasquatch talking to one another, and these human, they're definitely different than ours, but very human voice. It was this garbled gibberish, and then these loud screams and things like that, and the hunters screamed back, and it was like a call and response and some different things like that, and that recording had been analyzed, and it showed that it did not come from a human voice, and things like that. It's like, what is it?
Well, you know, that's something that I've been kind of toying with is, you know, everybody's going out and setting up cameras. I mean, I go out with my night vision camera, you know, all the time and look at the sky and stuff. But I wonder if I just like set up a microphone outside one night and just let it record all night long, and then just go back and listen and see what it catches. Now, it'll probably be a lot of tree frogs and stuff, but still, there might be other things that it catches that, you know, you just imagine
doing so in the winter as well, when there are less insects and creatures out there, because Sasquatch don't care if it's cold.
No.
Jersey Devil cares, but Sasquatch doesn't care.
Well, because the Jersey Devil doesn't have a lot of fur.
No. Just because he's from Jersey don't mean he's living in the forest. Like,
right.
Like he's actually visiting his family right now, and it's like he acts like it's like the Godfather. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, I mean, he's got bat wings, and they don't really have a lot of fur on him either.
So I mean, caves are 57 degrees at all times.
Right.
So, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, look at pop culture. Look at our fascination. It's interesting that everything has been on the UAPs, and everyone's scared to talk about ETs, except for Dr. Greer. It's interesting, though, and again, this is almost like a gateway drug, because the popular fascination, the pop culture there is not the fascination with UFOs. It is fascination with the ETs that could be potentially driving it. And so this may be allowing us to dip our toes in the water, right? It's like, here are some UAPs. The government is saying, hey, we don't know what it is. More than likely it's in this catch-all because we don't know, but we don't think that it's other countries because this is far too advanced technology. So it's like, and then maybe in 2-3 years when we're seeing all these UAP documentaries and lights in the skies and all these different things, they can say, here's an alien. We go, oh, I guess that was the logical next step.
Well, I mean, and that's what I've said. Actually, we talked about it a year ago was, are they going to use official disclosure from the government, and then to the stars and all these other places are going to do all these mass documentaries they're going to roll out, and that's going to basically so the official from the government gets the media talking about it, then you have Showtime and HBO and everybody else jumping on the bandwagon and doing all these shows, documentaries, so that gets everybody else who before would have never glanced an eye at the topic, now they're watching stuff. So it's a way to, again, trickle disclosure in a way that prepares the mind to be able to accept things that may be coming.
Exactly. So again, it'll be interesting what comes out over the next few years about these UAPs, because now we've got the government or the people's interest around the world. It's not just the United States. Around the world, the governments are coming clean and saying, hey, we're really looking into this and we're going to share some of this with the public. And I think we're going to start to see more of a share, just like you said, to get us used to seeing technology. And I think we're going to find, just like we said, that some of the sci-fi movies we've seen already have that technology, and it got us prepared for it. Yeah. And then eventual disclosure about ETs. And if we follow along the lines of Majestic 12 and things like that, they're already integrated. They're already here.
Oh, yeah.
They're already a part of government. They're already a part of this and that. And
I mean, really, if you go back and look at the Brookings report, this is falling in line with what their recommendation was.
Yeah.
Of how to gradually bring society up to speed and willing to accept that we're not alone.
Yeah. And I think it took an interconnected world with the internet and cell phones and tablets and things like that for information to move at such a fast pace. It makes acceptance of things happen very quickly. If this had happened in the 70s or 60s, I mean, you had TV, but not everybody had TV, things like that. It would have taken a while to get through magazines or newspapers. I mean, just like Keel said, it was so difficult to find because not everything got picked up by national news. And there were multiple UFO stories and things like that got just tossed aside because no one knew it happened in this small town newspaper, because it wasn't like you could Google search it. So
yeah. You had to.
So yeah, now we're all interconnected, so we can all talk about it immediately.
Right.
Share it.
Somebody had, back in the day, somebody had to clip it and send it to you, but now it shows up in your Facebook feed. So, something I was thinking about, and I don't want to. This is very conspiracy theorist, so I don't want to necessarily go down this path, but I'll mention it. There's a book I read it about 2 years ago. I can't remember the title right now, but it basically talks about. Humanity is spreading out into the galaxy, and what they have established is basically they go and they find planets that have some sort of a primate species on the planet, and then they drop a virus onto the planet that forces the primate species to evolve into humanoids. And that's how they seed humanity out into the galaxy. It's not actually taking humans and put them on the planet. It's starting a brand new humanity colony on the planet using primates that are already on the planet.
Right, and even then you can get into split-offs of those humanities like Neanderthals and things like that that just couldn't hang.
So this, by the way, this is a fiction book. This is not a but one of the things that happens is there's a group of humans that thinks that it's wrong, and so they attack the ship and they basically blow it up. But in the process, one of the scientists is able to get one of the vials onto this planet that happens to be inhabited by spiders.
Nope.
So the spiders evolve into these very large and sentient spiders.
Oh, that's like that Life After Humans TV show that was on, and they showed like a spiders evolved into flying, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. But anyway, so to cut it short without having to give away the whole thing of the book, the people, actual humans, have to take refuge on the planet, and when they land, they're surrounded by these giant, dog-sized spiders, and so they're freaking out because humanity is afraid of spiders. But they realize that the spiders pass their knowledge through pheromone, and so when the people actually receive the pheromone, they understand that the spiders are not dangerous.
I think we've talked about this before. I'm having deja vu. So we have,
and then they ended up in the end of the book. They ended up going off on a journey together, both humans and spiders, on a spaceship to explore the galaxy.
Well, I mean, you look at us. I mean, we look like predators, right? So it's like
so my point in saying all of that is there things that are happening today at a biological level that is some way, shape, or form gearing us up for contact in a way that will better understand.
I mean, it is. I mean, because of texting and messaging and things like that, we are able to think and process so much quicker than we used to, which is, again, why the short attention span and things like that, because we process. I mean, look at improv training. I mean, everything I do is to teach you how to think, respond, and react as quick as possible without thinking. And I mean, you've seen me do improv. It's like I can do a whole thing and never know what a word is coming out of my mouth. Yeah. How is that possible, right? It's like, were they able to do that 100 years ago? It's like, who knows? We don't know. But what was I going to say? There was something. I
was talking about biologically preparing us, and you're talking about improv and being superhuman at improv.
Yeah, no, you were talking about the spiders when I was. Spiders really threw me off, man.
Yeah, sorry. But anyways, I mean, I know
what I was gonna say is almost every religion talks about their gods existing above the sky, right? Even the Native Americans have the sky people. God created the heavens and the earth, and the heavens were above the sky. Everything was above the sky, right? Yeah. These gods, the Hindu gods, came down in these aircrafts and floated down and things like that. Why? Why is that? Is that because something came down from outer space, right? Yeah. And helped create humanity, or helped move humanity along out of the primate stage into the human stage, right?
Yeah.
It's just odd that all around the world all these gods come from the sky.
All around the world, same song.
All around the world, different cultures that never saw each other, right?
Yeah.
These gods come from the sky.
Right. Well, they talk about that a lot in the Ancient Aliens.
Right.
Ancient, astronaut theory is that, we got these cultures like in South America, and you got a similar culture in the Middle East, and they have similar depictions of deities and representation, all that kind of stuff, but they were separated and seemingly never came into contact with each other, but yet somehow they have similarities between their cultures.
Right. So. And then it makes you wonder, it's like, well, did all of this happened during the spawning from Africa, and those things got carried with each tribe that went in its separate direction, you know?
Or are we old enough to have lived on Pangea?
Yeah.
And then as the continents drifted apart, we evolved or devolved or whatever the case may be, or lost our civilization and had to rebuild it. And so,
and obviously bone does not live forever. Even fossils aren't technically bones, right? And it's like, but if every single dinosaur that existed had fossils out there, it'd be insane. And I think the same could be said about humans. I mean, we don't know what happened. We don't know. We have theories and things like that, but we keep finding more and more cultures that were more ahead of what we thought all the time, the more digging we do.
And you know that you're assuming that a culture advanced enough would have used steel or aluminum, but that may not have been the case. I mean,
we said that with Santosh could have been some sort of degradable thing. We have no idea.
Yeah. So, anyways, have we killed the extraterrestrial topic?
I think we've exhausted it. Yeah. I mean, I could talk to you forever about this, especially if we had a few drinks with us, but yeah, I could, like I said, we talk about this stuff all the time, and we wanted to share some of our thoughts with you guys about this as well. And please feel free to share your thoughts and theories too. I mean, we are not finite in our thinking. I mean, it is ever evolving. God, if you could take a look at us 2 years ago and see where we are now, night and day. I'm always looking for answers. I constantly wear a question mark on my brain, always. And so I'm always open. And so please, if you have ideas and thoughts and ideas, let us know. But I do want to roll on and move on to wrap things up here. But before we do that, of course, I want to just quickly say we mentioned it briefly with Wristwatch, but we do have some amazing trips coming up that we're trying to do, especially like we talked about in Wristwatch. Some of you guys know Terry Wrist has given us some locations that we really would like to go to. In fact, this last email he sent us, he's kind of yelled at us for not going yet.
For not going.
But these things are not free and we are not rich. And so part of your Patreon assistance kind of helps us make those journeys. And we, of course, document things and we do stuff. We very much would love the help with that. So join our Patreon. We have the Blanket Huggers FearScape Patreon. You can join. There's different levels. One of them is Wristwatch, but you do not have to be a part of Wristwatch. There's levels without it, ranging, I think, from like $1 to like
$1 to 15.
$1 to 15. So we're not even like, those people are like, our $1,000 level, we'll give you skin flakes off of our chin. Like, whatever. We're not we got 15, 15's as deep as go. You can always give more if you want to. That's great too. But yeah, please join our Patreon. There's lots of cool stuff on there. And we're always adding more stuff constantly, especially in Wristwatch, because that is heavy for us. And soon, hopefully soon, sometime down the road, we can start premiering things early on Patreon and things like that. We are still growing it, so bear with us. But that is fearscapepodcast.com/support or patreon.com/fearscapepod. You can also support us by going to our store on our Facebook page and picking up stickers. You guys have been getting a lot of our stickers.
Yeah,
I love that. We don't just have FearScape stuff. We got all kinds of weird shit. The National Cryptid Society has been like one of our best sellers. We love that sticker. It's fun. There's t-shirts and of course the other podcasts as well on the FearScape Media Network, fearscapemedia.com. All right. So now that I'm off my soapbox, Josh, I want to get into our encounter from the FearScape. So you actually solicited this bad boy. This comes from someone named Jillian Millard. I don't recall do you recall where Jillian's from?
She lives in the New York area.
New York. That's right. I thought I had written it down in here, but I did not. So thank you for sharing that. But yeah, we love your encounters from the FearScape. If you've had any encounter of any kind with something unexplained, something unpredictable, something strange, something weird, high strangeness, aliens, cryptids, your mom talking in a deep demon voice, let us know.
If you get mail on Sunday, we'll want to know about that too.
Yeah, we'll read it, man. But anyways, this comes from Jillian Millard here from the New York area, and this is a wonderful story, so take a listen.
I want to tell this story that I rarely speak about. You see, being ridiculed by just about everyone you've ever told tends to train you quick in just not speaking of it. But when I was 8 or 9 years old in the mid-1980s, my mother came busting into my room in the middle of the night screaming, "They're going to get us!" I had a friend from around the block staying the night, and my 2 sisters were there as well. My first thought, for whatever reason, was that the cops were coming to get us. Don't ask me why. She herded us all downstairs where the television was making a weird whirring sound in and out. My mother wanted me to call my friend's mother, but the phone was making the same sound and we couldn't get through. She then told us she was walking home from my friend's house. My mother and her mother were really close friends. Well, while looking at the ground and walking home, she was suddenly surrounded by a bright light. So she said she looked up and saw a metallic saucer hovering above her head, just at rooftop level of the houses in the neighborhood. She started to run back to the friend's house and it followed her. So she then changed her mind, worried about us, and it followed her back to the house. She was running back to our house. So she ran into the house. She woke up my oldest sister, and there it was in our backyard hovering just above the trees. So it then shot back super fast, looking like just a really bright star, but then would shoot close back. Now, I only saw it as a really bright star, but clearly, okay, not because you could see the tree line on the hills behind it. We all loaded into the car, and the car was also making that whirring sound I told you about through the radio. We drove to my friend's house, and we told her mother what was going on. But by then, it was way further in the distance, and so she didn't believe us and sent us home, basically. After that, it came so often, it was like we were used to it. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and my mother would just be standing in my room, looking out my window, and I'd say, "They're here again?" And she would just point, and we would just sit and watch it together. This happened all the time. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and just be drawn to look out the window, and there it was, out there, every time. My mother told me around the same time that she had woke up in the middle of the night to 5 gray creatures around her bed who were all naked, but one was taller than the rest and was wearing a brown cloak. She said she felt drugged and went back to sleep. Later that same night, she woke up to a man in a black suit hovering outside of her window, looking curiously in. We never understood the significance of that until years later when the Men in Black movie came out. Now, I feel like they're watching our family all the time. And I wish we had answers to why. You know, we used to say it was my grandmother because on her deathbed she said she was leaving us to go in a spaceship. Now, I'm not sure she did, but I hope that maybe someday somebody has some answers for us.
Wow.
Yeah. Woo.
That's intense.
And it's still happening.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing.
Well, and the one was wearing a cloak. I mean, I think it's the first I've ever heard of that.
No,
happening.
It's not. Okay, because I've seen it. Brad's seen it. Brad had a number of night hag sightings where they were these tall figures standing around his bed in these long robes, these cloaks, these robes. I've seen cloaked figures before, not intermingled, or anything like that with different, like how she saw different creatures and then one tall. But I mean, again, this fits the idea as well of some of the sightings or abductions where they say there's the shorter goblin type grays, and then there's the taller ones as well. I mean, they even joke about it in Invader Zim, the tallest. So,
well, you've also got the tall whites as a type of extraterrestrial, whatever that's out there too.
Yeah. I don't know, but thank you, Jillian. I really appreciate you getting that to us, and I'll be honest with you, I hope you find some answers, because I'm glad that you've gotten used to it, because it shows it's not dangerous.
Yeah.
But I would still be freaked out.
Yeah.
Because I naturally do.
And of course I'll share it here for anybody else that might need it. But MUFON does have their contactee abductee support group, and you can go to www.contacteehelp.com, which just redirects you over directly to that support group page on the MUFON website. And that's it's a great resource. You fill out this little questionnaire, just be honest, and then they'll contact you, get some additional information, and then provide you with support to help you process and work through.
And I'm glad we found this, because we get asked this quite a bit, and we didn't know where to send people until talking to Kathleen Martin. Kathleen was the one that informed us of the contactee portion of MUFON. But yeah, I mean, they can direct you to support groups in larger cities, online groups, just places to find support, to know that you're not alone. So contacteehelp.com will redirect you to the MUFON page there. And so, yeah, use that if you need it. I know I've filled out one. Josh, you filled out one for our experiences.
Yep.
So, but anyways, I don't want to proselytize the contactee help, but please use it, because I know a lot of you feel so alone and scared and don't know where to turn to, because we get messages from you folks all the time, and so now we can proudly point you there.
Yep.
But Josh, I want to go ahead and get out of here, man. Great discussion, duders.
Yep. It's been a good conversation.
It's been a good conversation. I'm super excited. I'm going to be seeing you, Josh, in 2 months? Wait, July, August. Yeah, 2 months. Yeah. Countdown. Me, you, and Santosh going to Somerset, man.
Yep.
Gonna get Somerset. And we've already gotten, even the man claiming to be Terry Risk gave us a cool spot to check out. Super excited about that. Go ahead.
That also correlated to direction we got from a Ouija session at your apartment.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, dude, that's what you guys don't understand. I know I said we were getting out of here, but this Terry Risk stuff, the emails from Terry are not the only things that we do. Of course, we have our Estes sessions, we have our channeling, and we have Ouija board sessions, and stuff like that. Stuff that we've had happen in those sessions, or those Ouija board sessions. Here's Terry Risk, the man claiming to be Terry Risk, dropping information that we had already referenced to ourselves, and things like that. So, I mean, and, it's not 100% of it or anything, maybe 1-2% or whatever, but still it's enough to be like, really? We literally just talked about that. Talk about synchronicities. Those are some of those things. But I was going to say, if any of you guys have some really cool places that aren't in Hellier, because we already have those listed. If you have some cool places in Somerset to check out, doesn't have to be alien related. It can be paranormal. It can be cryptid, and any within the region. I mean, we're even talking about maybe going to Cumberland Falls for the Moonbow, some things like that. So if you got some cool places for us to check out, let us know. Hit us up in comments or email us, fearscapepodcast@gmail.com. We want to know. Send in your encounters, all that stuff. So, their second soapbox stepping down. But yeah, so we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening to FearScape Paranormal Podcast here on the FearScape Media Network. This is Stefan, and I will catch you guys on the flip side, and keep your eyes to the skies.
And this is Josh. The truth is out there, and the truth is now.
And remember, folks, hold those blankets extra tight, because things tend to get spooky when you're listening to FearScape. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you for tuning in to FearScape Paranormal Podcast. We are on a journey to understand and to discover the phenomena that seems to exist all around the globe. We invite you to join us on this journey into the unknown.